There are moments in life that feel strangely familiar. Not dramatic, not loud, not even immediately important. Just a quiet repetition, a scene you've lived before, a sound you've heard before, a pattern you've noticed again and again. Maybe it's a number that keeps appearing. Maybe it's a type of conversation that keeps repeating. Maybe it's a situation that seems to circle back into your life just when you thought it was over. And every time it happens, you pause for a second, then move on, telling yourself it's nothing. But what if it was never nothing? What if those moments, those quiet, almost forgettable repetitions, were never random? What if they were signals waiting for the exact moment when you would finally be ready to feel them differently? Because right now something has shifted, and you know it. You may not have the words yet. You may not fully understand it. But deep inside, something feels different. The same situation, the same sign, the same pattern is about to appear again. But this time, it will not pass through you unnoticed. This time, it will stop you. This time, it will stir something in your spirit that refuses to be ignored. And that is exactly why this message found you. This is not coincidence. This is not slujikaki. This is not just another video, another message, another passing moment in your day. This is a divine interruption, a pause placed into your timeline by heaven itself. Because there is something you have seen many times before and you are about to see it again. But this time it will feel different. Why? Because you are different now. Archangel Michael steps forward in this moment, not as a distant symbol, not as a story you once heard, but as a present force of awareness. His voice does not shout. It cuts through the noise. It reaches into that quiet place within you where truth has always lived, waiting patiently for you to notice it. And he says, you are about to notice what you once overlooked. You are about to feel what you once ignored. You are about to understand what once confused you. Think about your life over the past weeks, even months. Haven't there been patterns? Repeating emotion, familiar disappointments, or even familiar opportunities that seem to come and go without explanation? You've seen them before, but you didn't see them clearly. Not because you were blind, but because it wasn't time yet. There is a difference between seeing something and being ready to recognize it. And now, you are ready. That's why this moment feels charged. That's why your attention was pulled here, almost as if something inside you whispered, "Stop, listen, this matters." That whisper, that pull, that quiet urgency rising within you right now, that is not your imagination. That is alignment. Heaven does not rush. Heaven prepares. And when the moment is right, it doesn't just show you something new. It reveals something familiar in a completely new way. So when this sign appears again, and it will, do not dismiss it like before. Do not explain it away. Do not rush past it in the comfort of habit. Pause. Feel it. Notice what is different, not in the sign, but in you. Because this is the beginning of something deeper than coincidence. This is the moment where repetition turns into revelation. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. Something is about to shift, not around you, but within you. And that changes everything. Type "I am ready to SE" in the comments if you feel this shift beginning. Blessing code 2020 is now activated. There is something about repetition that most people misunderstand. They assume that if something keeps showing up in their life, it must be ordinary, predictable, easy to ignore. You have done this too, haven't you? You've seen the same patterns, the same types of situations, The same emotional cycles return again and again, and at some point, you stopped questioning them. You labeled them as coincidence. You told yourself, that's just how things are. And slowly, without even realizing it, you trained your eyes to overlook what your spirit was trying to hide. But Archangel Michael speaks into this moment with clarity that can't be softened. He reveals that repetition is never random in the spiritual realm. What repeats carries a message. What returns carries intention. What shows up again and again is not there to annoy you. It is there to awaken you. And the reason it has not made sense before is because you were observing it with your natural mind, not with your awakened spirit. Now something has changed. The sign you are about to encounter again, whether it is a situation, a conversation, a pattern, or even a subtle inner feeling, will not carry the same weight it did before. It will not feel dull. It will not feel ordinary. It will carry a presence, a kind of quiet intensity that makes you stop and pay attention. You may not even know why at first. You may just feel a sudden stillness within you, like time slowed down for a brief moment, just enough for you to notice. That is the shift. It is not the sign that has changed. It is the energy surrounding it. And more importantly, it is the awareness within you that hath been activated to receive it differently. What once passed through your life like background noise is now stepping into the foreground, demanding recognition. This is not an accident. This is alignment unfolding in real time. Think back to the times you encountered this before. You saw it, but you moved on. You felt something, but you dismissed it. There was a whisper of meaning, but it never became clear enough for you to hold on to. That was not failure. That was preparation. Because not every moment is meant to be understood immediately. Some moments are seeds, planted quietly, waiting for the right season to grow into clarity. And now, you are stepping into that season. Archangel Michael makes it known that heaven often uses familiarity as a doorway. Not something completely new, not something shocking or overwhelming, but something recognizable. Something you have already encountered, so that when it returns, you have a reference point. But this time, the purpose is not for you to repeat your reaction. The purpose is for you to break the cycle of unconscious response and step into conscious awareness. This is where everything begins to shift. You will notice details you never noticed before. You will feel emotions with a different depth. You will sense undercurrents beneath the surface of what is happening. What once felt simple will now feel layered. What once felt confusing will now begin to reveal its structure. And in that moment, you will realize something powerful. The sign was never meant to change. That is why it feels different. And this is where many people miss their turning point. They encounter the same situation again, but because it looks familiar, they respond in the same way, and the cycle continues. But you are not being called to repeat. You are being called to recognize, to pause, you observe, to allow your spirit to interpret what your eyes alone cannot understand. Because within this familiar sign is something hidden. Something that has been there all along, waiting for you to be ready. It is not louder this time. It is not more obvious. It is simply clearer because you are finally aligned to perceive it. Do not rush past it when it comes. Do not explain it away with logic alone. Do not fall back into the comfort of old reactions. This moment requires something different from you. It requires presence. It requires stillness. It requires trust in what you feel, even if you cannot yet explain it. Because what is returning to you now is not just a repetition of the past. It is a doorway into understanding. And once you step through it, you will begin to see how every repeated moment in your life was leading to this exact point of awakening. Type "I recognize the sign" in the comments if you feel this truth. Blessing code 2727 is now activated. There is a moment in every awakening where nothing on the outside has truly changed, and yet everything feels different. This is the moment you are stepping into now. The sign, the situation, the pattern. It may look identical to what you have seen before. The same type of interaction, the same emotional trigger, the same subtle nudge in your spirit. But something within you is no longer responding the way it used to. There is a pause where there used to be reaction. There is awareness where there used to be confusion. There is a quiet knowing rising up, even if you cannot yet explain it. This is not coincidence. This is perception shifting. Archangel Michael reveals that what you are experiencing is not just a change in circumstances, but a transformation in how you interpret reality itself. You are no longer seeing through the same lens. The old lens was shaped by habit, by past experiences, by emotional patterns that operated without your full awareness. It caused you to react quickly, to assume, to move forward without questioning what was happening beneath the surface. But now, that lens is being removed, and in its place, something new is forming. This new perception does not rush, and does not jump to conclusions. It observes. It listens. It feels deeply before it responds. And because of this, the same situations that once passed through your life unnoticed are now revealing layers you could not access before. You are beginning to sense intention behind actions. You are beginning to recognize patterns behind behaviors. You are beginning to feel the energy beneath the words people speak. This is why it feels different. It is not that life has suddenly become more complex. It is that you are finally seeing the complexity that was always there. And more importantly, you are no longer overwhelmed by it. There is a strange calmness in your awareness now, as if you are watching things unfold with a deeper understanding rather than being pulled into them blindly. Think about how you used to respond. There were moments when you reacted instantly, driven by emotion, by assumption, by the need to resolve or escape what you were feeling. You did not pause long enough to ask, "Why is this happening again?" Or "What is this trying to show me?" You simply moved through it, and the cycle continued. But now, that automatic response is breaking. Now, when the familiar appears, something within you stops. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. You begin to question, to observe, to feel the weight of the moment differently. It is as if your spirit is stepping forward and saying, "Look closer this time. Do not miss what you missed before." This is the shift Archangel Michael is speaking of. And it is powerful because perception shapes everything. The way you see determines the way you respond. The way you respond determines the outcome you create. When your perception changes, even the same situation can lead to a completely different result. What once led to confusion can now lead to clarity. What once led to repetition can now lead to release. This is why heaven does not always change your environment immediately. Instead, it changes you first. Because once you see clearly, you no longer interact with your environment in the same way. You begin to make different choices. You begin to set different boundaries. You begin to understand what is aligned and what is not. And slowly, everything around you begins to shift as a result. There is also something else happening within you that you may not have fully recognized yet. Your sensitivity is increasing. Not in a way that makes you weak, but in a way that makes you aware. You are picking up on things you used to ignore. You are feeling the truth behind situations even when it is not spoken aloud. This can feel unfamiliar at first. even uncomfortable, because it requires you to trust what you feel rather than dismiss it. But this sensitivity is not a burden. It is a gift. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this heightened awareness is part of your protection. When you can feel what is real beneath the surface, you are no longer easily misled. You are no longer easily pulled into cycles that do not serve you. You begin to recognize what aligns with your path and what does not, without needing external validation. This is why the same sign now feels heavier, more meaningful, more impossible to ignore. Because your perception has caught up with the truth that was always present. Do not resist this shift. Do not try to return to the comfort of not knowing. You have moved beyond that point. What once felt normal will no longer feel right if it is not aligned. What once felt acceptable will now feel questionable if it carries hidden patterns. This is growth. This is awakening. And this is the moment where everything begins to change, not because the world around you has transformed overnight, but because you have finally begun to see it as it truly is. Type "My eyes are open" in the comments if you feel this shift. Blessing code 3030 is now activated. As this awareness opens within you, understand this: every time you receive clarity like this, it is not just for you alone. There are countless others walking in confusion, waiting for a message that will awaken their sight just as yours is being awakened now. When you choose to support this mission through super thanks or a PayPal offering, you are sowing a seed of light into lives that are still searching in the dark. The word declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and today, your giving becomes a living stream that carries truth, healing, and revelation into another soul's journey. I feel led to say this clearly. If your spirit has been stirred, this is your moment to act in alignment. Do not delay what heaven is prompting in you. Release your seed, and watch how God releases clarity, favor, and multiplied blessing back into your life. Go now. Follow the link in the description or the QR code on your screen, and step into this divine exchange. There is something you must understand at this stage of your awakening, something that will change the way you interpret every moment moving forward. Nothing, not a single sign, not a single repetition, not a single encounter, appears in your life without purpose. What feels random to the mind is often precise in the spirit. What seems delayed to you is often perfectly timed from a higher perspective. And what feels like coincidences, in truth, alignment unfolding exactly when it is meant to. This is where many people lose clarity. They assume that if something shows up again, it must be because nothing has changed. They think repetition means stagnation. But Archangel Michael reveals a deeper truth. Repetition is not about going in circles. It is about being brought back to the same point with a different level of awareness. The moment itself may look the same, but the timing of its return is never accidental. You are not encountering this sign again because you missed it completely before. You are encountering it again because now, finally, you are ready to understand it. There is a divine precision in this. Heaven does not rush revelation. It prepares you for it. If you had fully understood this sign the first time it appeared, you might not have been able to handle what it revealed. You might have dismissed it, resisted it, or misinterpreted it through the lens of your past limitations. So instead, it was allowed to pass through your life quietly, leaving behind a trace, a memory, a feeling, a subtle awareness. And now, at this exact moment, it returns. Not because it failed before, but because the timing is now right. Think about how your life has been unfolding recently. There have been shifts within you, subtle, but undeniable. You have been thinking differently, questioning more, feeling things more deeply. There has been a quiet preparation happening beneath the surface, even if you could not fully articulate it. This preparation was not random. It was necessary, because the clarity you are about to receive requires a version of you that is ready to hold it. This is why Archangel Michael emphasizes timing so strongly. He does not speak in urgency without reason. When he says that you are about to notice something familiar in a different way, he is pointing to a precise moment in your journey, a moment that has been building over time, step by step, layer by layer. Nothing in your past has been wasted. Every experience, every confusion, every repeated cycle has been shaping your awareness, refining your perception, preparing you for this exact point. What once felt like delay was actually development. What once felt like repetition was actually rehearsal. And now, you are stepping onto the stage of recognition, where everything begins to make sense. This is the power of divine timing. It does not operate according to your expectations. It does not follow your sense of urgency. It moves according to alignment. And when alignment is reached, things that once seemed ordinary suddenly carry meaning. Moments that once felt insignificant suddenly feel important. Signs that once went unnoticed suddenly stand out with undeniable clarity. You are in that moment now. And this is why it feels different. It is not just that you are seeing something again. It is that you are seeing it at the exact moment when your awareness has aligned with its meaning. This alignment creates a kind of clarity that cannot be forced. It cannot be rushed. It simply arrives when everything within you is ready to receive it. There is also something else you must recognize. When divine timing brings something back into your life, it is not just to show you something. It is to invite you into a choice. A moment of recognition is always followed by a moment of decision. Once you see clearly, you cannot return to the comfort of not knowing. Once you understand, you are called to respond differently. This is where the shift becomes real. You are not being shown this sign again just for awareness alone. You are being positioned to act with a new level of clarity. The same situation that once led to a familiar outcome now stands before you as an opportunity to choose a different path. And that choice will determine what happens next. Archangel Michael stands as a guide in this moment, not forcing your decision, but illuminating the truth so that you can make it with confidence. He reminds you that you are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing anything. You are exactly where you need to be, at the exact moment you are meant to be here. Trust this timing. Trust the return of what feels familiar. Trust the shift within you that is allowing you to see it differently. Because nothing is appearing without purpose now. Nothing is repeating without reason. And nothing is happening outside of divine alignment. You are in the moment where understanding begins to unfold. And once it does, everything that follows will begin to change. Type "I trust divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4141 is now activated. There is something happening inside you right now that you may not have fully named yet, but you have felt it. It is subtle, yet undeniable. It is not loud, yet it is persistent. It is the quiet expansion of your awareness, the steady awakening of senses that have always been within you, but were not fully active until now. This is not imagination. This is not emotion alone. This is the beginning of your spiritual senses coming alive in a deeper way. Archangel Michael speaks into this moment with clarity and authority, revealing that what you are experiencing is not external first, it is internal. Before anything changes around you, something must shift within you. And that shift is already underway. The reason the familiar now feels different is because the part of you that interprets reality is evolving. You are no longer just seeing with your eyes. You are beginning to perceive with your spirit. This is why things feel more intense lately. Not necessarily more chaotic, but more noticeable. Conversations carry weight you didn't feel before. Silences speak louder than words. Situations that once seemed simple now feel layered, almost as if there is something beneath the surface asking to be understood. This is not confusion. This is depth, and you are finally able to sense it. In the past, you moved quickly through moments. You reacted, you processed, and you moved on. But now, there is a pause, a space between what happens and how you respond. In that space, something new is forming. You are observing more. You are feeling more. You are questioning more. And most importantly, you are beginning to trust what you sense, even when it cannot yet be explained. This is the awakening. It does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gradually, like a light that becomes brighter over time. At first it can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. You may wonder why you are suddenly noticing things that never stood out before. You may question why certain environments feel heavier or lighter, why certain people's words feel aligned or off, why certain moments seem to carry a deeper meaning than they used to. But this is not something to resist. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this expansion of your spiritual senses is a form of protection and guidance. When your awareness increases, your ability to discern also increases. You begin to recognize what is true and what is not, what aligns with your path and what pulls you away from it. You are no longer navigating blindly. You are becoming intentional, even if you are still learning how to trust this new level of perception. This is why the familiar sign now feels different, because you are not encountering it as the same person anymore. You are encountering it with a deeper awareness, a heightened sensitivity, a stronger connection to what is real beneath the surface. What once felt neutral now carries energy. What once felt confusing now begins to reveal patterns. What once felt insignificant now feels like a message waiting to be understood. This is not coincidence. This is alignment between your inner awakening and the external moment. There is also something important you must recognize during this phase. As your awareness expands, you may begin to outgrow certain patterns, certain environments, even certain ways of thinking that once felt comfortable. This is not loss. This is transformation. When your perception changes, your connection to what no longer aligns will naturally shift as well. You may feel moments of isolation, not because you are alone, but because you are no longer resonating with everything you once did. You may feel moments of uncertainty, not because you are lost, but because you are stepping into a new level of understanding that requires adjustment. This is part of the process. This is part of the awakening. Archangel Michael reminds you not to retreat during this phase. Do not shrink your awareness to fit what feels familiar. Do not ignore what you are sensing just to maintain comfort. What is unfolding within you is meant to guide you forward, not pull you back. You are learning to see beyond the surface. You are learning to feel what is real. You are learning to trust your perception in a way you never have before. And as this continues, the signs you encounter will become clearer. The patterns will become easier to recognize. The decisions you face will become more defined. Not because life becomes simpler, but because you are becoming more aligned with truth. This is the beginning of clarity. This is the moment where your inner awareness meets external reality in a new way. And this is why everything feels different now. Because you are no longer just experiencing life. You are understanding it. Type "I trust my inner sight" in the comments if you feel this awakening. Blessing code 5151 is now activated. There comes a moment in every spiritual awakening where repetition loses its power. Not because the situation disappears, not because the pattern never shows up again, but because you no longer participate in it the same way. This is the moment you are approaching now. The familiar is returning, yes, but this time, it is not here to trap you in the same cycle. It is here to reveal that the cycle itself has already begun to break. Archangel Michael speaks with unmistakable clarity in this phase, declaring that what once held you is no longer able to contain you. The patterns that repeated in your life were never stronger than you. They were only stronger than your awareness at the time. They operated through automatic reactions, through emotional habits, through responses you did not yet question. But now, something has shifted. You are no longer moving unconsciously. You are no longer reacting without reflection. You are no longer repeating without recognition. This is what changes everything. Think back to how these patterns used to play out. There was a rhythm to them, wasn't there? A predictable sequence. A trigger, followed by a reaction, followed by an outcome that felt all too familiar. It could have been in your relationships, your decisions, your emotions, or even your internal thoughts. You may not have fully understood it at the time, but there was a cycle, and it repeated because it was uninterrupted. But now, something interrupts it. That interruption is you. Not the old version of you, but the awakened version of you. The one who pauses, the one who observes, the one who feels the moment differently instead of rushing through it. This is where the pattern begins to lose its hold. Because cycles depend on unconscious participation, they depend on you moving the same way every time. And the moment you stop, even for a second, the cycle begins to weaken. This is why the familiar now feels different. Because you are no longer inside the pattern, you are seeing it. And when you can see something clearly, you are no longer controlled by it. Archangel Michael reveals that this is not just a moment of awareness, but a moment of power. The return of this sign is not a test of whether the pattern still exists. It is a confirmation that you are now capable of choosing differently. The same situation stands before you, but it no longer has the authority to dictate your response. The power has shifted from the pattern to your perception. This is the breaking point. But understand this. Breaking a pattern does not always feel dramatic. It does not always come with a clear announcement or a visible change in the external world. Often, it happens quietly, in a way you choose not to react, in the way you choose to step back instead of stepping in the way you choose clarity over familiarity. This is where many people miss it. They expect the change to come from the outside. They wait for the situation to disappear, for the pattern to stop showing up entirely. But the real shift happens within you first. The moment you respond differently, the pattern begins to collapse, even if it appears one more time. This is why Archangel Michael brings this message with urgency but also with reassurance. He wants you to understand that you are not stuck. You are not bound to repeat what you have already outgrown. You are not destined to walk the same path again simply because it appears familiar. You are being given a moment of choice, and that choice will determine whether the pattern continues or ends. There is also something deeper happening here. As you break one pattern, you create space for something new to enter. The energy that once fueled repetition is now being redirected toward transformation. What once kept you in cycles now begins to move you forward. This is why breaking patterns is not just about ending something. It is about beginning something new. You may feel this as a sense of release, a lightness where there used to be heaviness, a clarity where there used to be confusion. It may not be overwhelming, but it will be noticeable. It will feel like a quiet shift, like something has loosened its grip on you. That is the moment of breakthrough. Archangel Michael reminds you that you do not need to force this process. You do not need to fight the pattern aggressively. You only need to remain aware, to remain present, to remain aligned with the clarity that is already rising within you. Because once you see the pattern clearly, it cannot control you the same way again. And this is why this time will not repeat the past. Not because the situation is different, but because you are. Type "I break the cycle" in the comments if you receive this truth. Blessing code 6161 is now activated. Now you have arrived at a moment that many never fully reach, the moment where recognition must turn into understanding. It is not enough anymore to simply notice the sign, to feel that it is different, or even to realize that the pattern is breaking. There is something deeper embedded within what is appearing before you, something intentional, something precise, something that requires your full attention. Because every sign carries a message, and every message carries direction. Archangel Michael makes this clear. What you are about to encounter is not just a repetition for awareness alone. It is communication. It is a message layered beneath the surface of what seems familiar. And if you only look at it with your eyes, you may miss it again. But if you engage with it through your awakened perception, you will begin to see what hath been hidden in plain sight all along. This is where discernment becomes essential. Discernment is not the same as observation. Observation allows you to see what is happening. Discernment allows you to understand why it is happening. In the past, you may have observed these repeating signs without truly questioning their meaning. You saw them, you felt something briefly, but you moved on before the deeper message could unfold. Not because you were incapable, but because you were not yet positioned to receive it. Now you are. And this is why Archangel Michael urges you not to rush this moment. When the familiar appears again, pause longer than you normally would. Let the moment unfold without immediately reacting to it. Pay attention not only to what is happening externally, but to what is rising within you internally. What are you feeling that you did not feel before? What thoughts are coming forward that were not present in previous encounters? What subtle awareness is beginning to form beneath the surface of your reaction? This is where the message begins to reveal itself. Because the hidden message is not always spoken directly. It is often felt first. It appears as a knowing before it becomes clarity. It rises as a sense of truth before it forms into words. And if you dismiss that initial feeling, you may miss the doorway into deeper understanding. There is also something else you must recognize. The message within the sign is not always comfortable. Sometimes it reveals something you have been avoiding. Sometimes it points to a truth you have not fully accepted. Sometimes it asks you to see a situation, a person, or even yourself in a way that challenges what you previously believed. This is why discernment requires courage. It is not just about seeing clearly. It is about being willing to accept what you see. Archangel Michael does not bring this message to overwhelm you, but to guide you into alignment. The hidden message is not there to confuse you. It is there to clarify what has been uncertain. It is there to show you what needs to shift, what needs to be released, what needs to be understood before you move forward. You may begin to realize that what once felt like repetition was actually instruction, that what once felt like delay was actually preparation, that what once felt like confusion was actually a lack of full perception. And now, with your awareness expanding, the meaning behind these moments begins to come into focus. This is the turning point. Because once you discern the message, you cannot return to the old way of interacting with the sign. You cannot unknow what has been revealed. And this is where your path begins to change more visibly. Your decisions will begin to reflect your understanding. Your actions will begin to align with your clarity, and the situations around you will begin to respond differently because you are no longer engaging with them from the same level of awareness. But remember this: the message will not force itself upon you. It requires your attention. It requires your stillness. It requires your willingness to listen beyond the surface. And in a world that constantly pushes you to move quickly, to react instantly, to think without pausing, this becomes a sacred act. You stop, to observe, you feel, to discern. Archangel Michael stands with you in this moment, not to give you every answer immediately, but to strengthen your ability to perceive truth for yourself. Because once you learn to discern, you are no longer dependent on external confirmation. You begin to trust what you feel, what you sense, what you know within. And that is where true clarity begins. The sign is not just a repetition. It is a message. And now, you are finally ready to understand it. Type "I discern" the message in the comments if you receive this truth. Blessing code 7171 is now activated. There is something critical you must understand as you stand at this threshold of awareness. Whenever clarity is about to fully emerge, confusion often rises one final time. Not as a sign that you are going backward, but as evidence that you are on the edge of breakthrough. This is a pattern that operates quietly but consistently. Just before you see clearly, things may briefly feel unclear. Just before truth settles, distortion may try to surface. And if you are not aware of this, you may mistake that moment for failure instead of recognizing it as the final resistance before alignment. Archangel Michael speaks with urgency here, not to alarm you, but to prepare you. He reveals that when you begin to see differently, when your perception sharpens and your discernment strengthens, there will be an opposing force that attempts to pull you back into uncertainty. This force does not always appear dramatic. It often comes subtly, through doubt, through overthinking, through a sudden flood of conflicting thoughts that make you question what you just felt so clearly. You may notice this already happening. One moment, you feel aligned. You feel certain. You recognize the pattern, the sign, the message within it. And then suddenly, something shifts. Questions begin to rise. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm overthinking this? What if it doesn't mean what I think it means? These thoughts may feel convincing, almost logical, but they are not arising from your clarity. They are arising from the last layer of resistance trying to keep you from fully stepping into what you now see. This is the enemy's final attempt, not to destroy you, but to confuse you. Because confusion delays action. Confusion keeps you in place. Confusion makes you second-guess what your spirit already knows. And if you allow it to take hold, you may find yourself returning to the same patterns you were just beginning to break, not because you lack awareness, but because you doubted it at the critical moment. This is why Archangel Michael emphasizes vigilance. He does not ask you to fight aggressively or to become overwhelmed by what you are sensing. He simply calls you to remain steady, to remain grounded in the awareness that has already been given to you, to recognize that clarity does not need to shout to be true. It often comes quietly, and it is only when doubt begins to speak loudly that you question it. But understand this: truth does not become false just because doubt appears. Your awareness does not disappear just because confusion tries to interrupt it. What you have seen, what you have felt, what you have recognized within the sign, it remains valid, even if your mind begins to challenge it. This is the moment where trust becomes essential. Not blind trust, but aligned trust. Trust in what you have already discerned. Trust in the shift that has already occurred within you. Trust in the fact that you are not the same as you were before, and therefore, your perception is no longer limited in the same way. There is also something else happening beneath the surface during this phase. As confusion rises, it often brings with it a sense of urgency, a feeling that you must decide quickly, react quickly, resolve quickly. But this urgency is not aligned with clarity. It is designed to push you out of your stillness and back into reactive patterns. Do not rush. Archangel Michael is clear about this. Clarity deepens in stillness, not in haste. When you feel the pull to react immediately, to explain everything away, to return to familiar responses just to relieve the discomfort of uncertainty, that is your signal to pause even more. Because what is unfolding here is a test of alignment, not a test of your worth, not a test of your strength, but a test of whether you will remain in the awareness you have gained or retreat into the comfort of what you have already outgrown. The confusion will pass. It does not have the power to remain if you do not feed it. It only lingers when you engage with it, when you try to solve it prematurely, when you give it more attention than the clarity that came before it. Stay with what you know. Stay with what you felt when the sign first appeared differently. Stay with the quiet certainty that rose within you before the noise began. Because that is where the truth is. And as you remain there, something powerful will happen. The confusion will begin to dissolve. The conflicting thoughts will lose their intensity. The urgency will fade. And what will remain is a deeper, more stable clarity than you have ever experienced before. This is the final layer. This is the moment where you move from recognizing truth to standing firmly in it. And once you do, the same forces that tried to confuse you will no longer have access to your perception in the same way. You will see clearly. You will move with certainty. And the sign that once repeated without meaning will now stand as a confirmation of your transformation. Type "I stand in clarity" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8181 is now activated. As you stand in this moment of clarity, understand that what you are receiving is not meant to stop with you. There are souls right now walking through confusion, standing at the same threshold you once stood at, waiting for a message that will guide them into light. When you release a seed through Super Thanks or through the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a platform. You are opening a river that carries truth into someone else's darkness. The word speaks, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not distant scripture. It is a living command flowing into your moment now. I feel this strongly for you. This is your opportunity to respond in alignment, not later, not eventually, but now. Let your giving become a prophetic act that multiplies light, clarity, and breakthrough in lives you may never see but heaven fully knows. Step forward, use the link or the QR code, and release what has been placed in your spirit to give. There is a truth you must anchor yourself in as everything begins to shift within you and around you. As your awareness expands, as your perception sharpens, as you begin to break patterns and discern hidden messages, it may feel at times like you are standing alone in this transformation. It may feel like you are the only one seeing what you now see, the only one feeling what you now feel. But this is where Archangel Michael steps forward with a message that must not be overlooked. You are not alone in this shift. Not for a single moment have you been navigating this awakening without protection, guidance, and presence surrounding you. What you are experiencing is not just internal growth. It is a coordinated alignment between your awareness and a higher level of spiritual covering. As you rise in perception, your need for protection increases, not because you are in danger, but because you are becoming more sensitive to truth. And with that sensitivity comes the need for clarity to be guarded, for your mind to remain steady, for your spirit to remain anchored. Archangel Michael is not symbolic in this moment. His presence represents order, protection, and unwavering strength. He does not arrive after the battle is over. He stands with you during the moment of transition, when things are not yet fully clear, when your awareness is still stabilizing, when you are learning how to trust what you now perceive. This is the exact moment where protection matters most. Because when you begin to see clearly, you also begin to recognize what no longer aligns. You begin to notice what feels off, what feels inconsistent, what feels misaligned with the clarity rising within you. And this can feel overwhelming at first, not because you are weak, but because you are adjusting to a higher level of awareness. You are no longer filtering everything through comfort. You are beginning to filter through truth. This is where many people become uncertain. They start to question whether they are overanalyzing, whether they are imagining things, whether they should return to the simplicity of not seeing so much. But Archangel Michael stands firmly in this moment to remind you that clarity is not something to retreat from. It is something to stand within. And you are protected in that clarity. Protection does not always look like removing every challenge or preventing every moment of confusion. Sometimes, protection is the ability to remain steady even when things around you feel uncertain. It is the ability to stay grounded in what you have already discerned, even when external voices or internal doubts try to shift your focus. It is the quiet strength that allows you to move forward without needing constant reassurance. You may begin to notice this protection in subtle ways. A sense of calm in situations that once would have overwhelmed you. A clarity that remains even when confusion tries to surface. A feeling of being guided, even when you cannot fully see the next step. These are not random experiences. They are signs that you are not navigating this alone. Archangel Michael's role in this moment is not to make every decision for you, but to ensure that you are not misled as you make them. He strengthens your discernment. He steadies your perception. He creates a space around your awareness where truth can remain clear, even when distractions attempt to enter. This is why it is important that you do not shrink back now. As your awareness expands, you may feel the temptation to return to what feels easier, to ignore what you are sensing, to avoid the responsibility that comes with seeing clearly. But understand this, once your perception has shifted, returning to unconscious patterns will only create more tension within you. What once felt comfortable will no longer feel right, because you have already moved beyond it. And this is where protection becomes even more important. Because standing in clarity requires confidence, and confidence grows when you trust that you are supported. You are not expected to navigate this perfectly. You are not expected to have every answer immediately. You are only being asked to remain present, to remain aware, to remain aligned with what has already been revealed to you. Archangel Michael does not leave you to figure this out alone. His presence is a constant reminder that as you step into deeper awareness, you are also stepping into deeper protection. The same force that has guided you to this moment is the same force that will continue to guide you forward. There is no gap in that guidance. There is no moment where you are suddenly left without direction. There is only a gradual strengthening of your ability to recognize that you have never been without it. And as you continue to move forward, you will begin to trust this more fully. You will begin to rely less on external validation and more on the steady, quiet assurance that what you are sensing is real, that what you are discerning is valid, and that what you are stepping into is aligned. This is not a moment of isolation. This is a moment of support. This is a moment where your awareness and your protection are rising together. And as long as you remain aligned with what you have already seen, you will continue to be guided with clarity, strength, and purpose. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this truth. Blessing code 9191 is now activated. There is a moment in every transformation where awareness alone is no longer enough. You have seen the sign. You have felt the shift. You have recognized the pattern, discerned the message, and stood through the confusion without retreating. Now you are standing at something far more powerful, a decision point. This is where everything you have experienced begins to take shape in a tangible way. Because what happens next is not determined by what you see, it is determined by how you respond to what you now understand. Archangel Michael makes this moment unmistakably clear. He reveals that recognition without response keeps you in observation, but recognition with aligned action moves you into transformation. And this is where many hesitate. Not because they do not understand, but because they feel the weight of choosing differently. The familiar may no longer feel right, but it is still known. And stepping away from what is known, even when it no longer aligns, can feel uncertain. But this is the threshold. This is where your awareness becomes your responsibility. You are no longer in a place where you can say, "I didn't see it." You are no longer in a place where you can move unconsciously through the same cycles without feeling the tension of misalignment. What once felt normal will now feel heavy if it does not match what you have discerned. What once felt automatic will now feel intentional. And this is not pressure. This is clarity asking you to respond. The decision you are facing may not appear dramatic on the outside. It may not be a single, obvious choice. It may show up in small moments, in how you respond to a familiar situation, in whether you engage with an old pattern or step back from it, in whether you trust what you feel or dismiss it in favor of what is easier. These moments may seem subtle, but they carry significant weight, because transformation is built through consistent, aligned decisions. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this is not about perfection. You are not expected to respond flawlessly. You are not expected to have complete certainty in every step. What matters is that you respond differently than you did before. That you allow your awareness to influence your action, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. This is where the outcome begins to shift. In the past, the same sign led to the same response, which led to the same result. That cycle repeated because the response never changed. But now, you are interrupting that sequence. You are inserting awareness into the moment, and that awareness opens the possibility for a different choice. And a different choice creates a different outcome. This is not theoretical. This is immediate. The moment you respond differently, the pattern begins to lose its structure. The path that once felt fixed begins to open into something new. And while you may not see the full result right away, the direction has already changed. There may also be resistance within you at this stage. A part of you may want to return to what feels easier, to follow the familiar response just to avoid the discomfort of change. This is natural. It is not a sign that you are failing. It is simply the echo of old patterns that are losing their hold. But you must not let that echo guide your decision. Archangel Michael stands firm in this moment, reminding you that you are capable of choosing differently now. You are not bound by the same limitations. You are not operating from the same level of awareness. And because of that, you have access to a new way forward. Trust that. Even if the next step feels small, even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels like you are stepping into something you cannot fully predict, trust that your awareness has led you here for a reason. You are not being asked to leap blindly. You are being asked to move in alignment with what you already know. This is where your power is, not in controlling every outcome, but in choosing your response with clarity. And as you continue to choose differently, something remarkable begins to happen. The situations that once repeated begin to change. The patterns that once returned begin to dissolve. The signs that once confused you begin to confirm your direction, because you are no longer participating in the same cycle. You are creating a new one. This is the decision point, and it is here that everything you have experienced begins to transform into something real, something visible, something lasting. You are not just seeing differently now. You are moving differently, and that is what changes the outcome. Type "I choose differently" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated. There is a quiet but powerful shift that begins the moment you choose differently. It does not always announce itself with dramatic change. It does not always arrive with immediate visible results. But it begins, and once it begins, it cannot be reversed. This is the transformation phase. This is what unfolds after recognition, after discernment, after you stand at the decision point and respond in alignment with what you now understand. Archangel Michael speaks into this phase with a tone of certainty. He does not describe it as something that might happen. He declares it as something that is already in motion. The moment you break the pattern, even once, you alter the trajectory of everything that follows. What once repeated begins to lose its structure. What once felt fixed begins to open. And what once seemed inevitable begins to shift into possibility. At first, this transformation may feel subtle. You may not see immediate changes in your environment. The same people may still be around you. The same situations may still appear, at least briefly. But something within those interactions begins to change. The energy is different. The weight is different. The way you move through them is different. And this difference matters more than anything external. Because transformation does not begin outside of you. It begins within you, and then it moves outward. It reshapes your responses, your boundaries, your decisions, and eventually, it reshapes your reality. But it does so in a way that is steady, not rushed. Aligned, not forced. You may notice that things which once strained you no longer hold the same power. Situations that once triggered immediate reactions now pass through you with less intensity. Conversations that once confused you now feel clearer, even if the words have not changed. This is not because the world has suddenly become easier. It is because you are no longer engaging with it from the same level of awareness. This is transformation in motion. Archangel Michael reveals that during this phase, there is also a process of realignment happening. As you continue to respond differently, you begin to attract different outcomes. Not because you are forcing them, but because your energy is no longer aligned with the old patterns. The cycle hath been interrupted, and as a result, it cannot continue in the same way. This may also bring moments of adjustment. As things shift, you may feel a sense of distance from what once felt familiar. This is not loss. It is transition. You are moving from one level of awareness to another, and in that movement, certain connections, habits, or perspectives may begin to fall away naturally. Do not resist this. Archangel Michael emphasizes that transformation requires space. Space for new clarity to settle. Space for new patterns to form. Space for new alignment to take shape. If you try to hold on to everything exactly as it was, you may slow the process. But if you allow the shift to unfold, you will begin to see how everything is reorganizing itself around your new awareness. There is also something else you must understand. Transformation is not a single moment. It is a process that continues to deepen over time. The recognition you experience is only the beginning. The more you remain aligned with it, the more it expands. The more you trust it, the more it strengthens. You will begin to notice that your clarity becomes more consistent. Your decisions become more grounded. Your reactions become more intentional. and the signs that once confused you will now serve as confirmations, guiding you rather than repeating themselves. This is where your confidence begins to grow. Not a loud, external confidence, but a quiet inner certainty, and knowing that you are no longer moving blindly. A trust that you are capable of navigating what comes next because you are aligned with what is true. Archangel Michael stands with you in this phase, not to direct every step, but to reinforce your stability as you move forward. He reminds you that transformation is not about becoming someone entirely new. It is about becoming more aligned with who you already are, beneath the patterns, beneath the confusion, beneath the repetition. You are not changing into something unfamiliar. You are returning to clarity. And as you continue in this phase, you will begin to see the results of your alignment more clearly. Opportunities will feel different. Decisions will feel clear. The path ahead will begin to reveal itself, not all at once, but step by step. This is the unfolding. This is the movement from awareness into reality. And this is why everything that has led you to this moment matters. Because now, you are not just seeing differently. You are becoming different. Type "I am transforming" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activated. There comes a final moment in every divine sequence where everything that once felt uncertain begins to settle into undeniable truth. Not because every question has been answered, not because every detail has been revealed, but because something within you has shifted so deeply that you no longer require the same level of external confirmation. This is that moment. This is the prophetic confirmation Archangel Michael hath been leading you toward from the very beginning. You have felt the repetition. You have noticed the difference. You have paused, observed, discerned, and chosen differently. You have stood through confusion without retreating. You have recognized the pattern and stepped beyond it. And now, you are standing in a place where the familiar is no longer a trap. It is a testimony of your transformation. This is why everything changes from here. Because what once repeated without meaning now carries confirmation. What once felt like a cycle now feels like a completed lesson. What once confused you now strengthens your clarity. The same sign that appeared before as a question now returns as an answer. Archangel Michael speaks with authority in this moment, declaring that you have crossed a threshold. Not a physical one, not something visible to others, but a spiritual threshold that separates who you were from who you have now become. And once that threshold is crossed, there is no returning to the same level of awareness. You cannot unknow what you now know. You cannot unsee what you now see. You cannot go back to responding the same way without feeling the weight of misalignment. And this is not a limitation. It is your freedom. Because now, you are no longer moving in cycles. You are moving in direction. There is a difference between repeating and progressing, and that difference is awareness combined with aligned action. You have reached the point where your awareness is no longer passive. It is active. It is guiding your decisions, shaping your responses, and influencing the outcomes that follow. This is the confirmation. Not something external that suddenly appears, but something internal that stabilizes within you. A quiet certainty that you are on the right path. A calm knowing that what you have experienced was not random. A steady confidence that you are now aligned with something deeper than surface-level understanding. You may begin to notice that the same types of situations no longer affect you the same way. That the same patterns no longer pull you in. That the same signs no longer confuse you. Instead, they affirm you. They remind you how far you have come. They reflect back to you the clarity you now carry. This is how transformation becomes visible. Not always through dramatic change, but through consistent alignment. Through the absence of old reactions. through the presence of new understanding, through the steady unfolding of a life that no longer repeats itself in the same way. Archangel Michael stands with you in this final moment, not as a guide leading you forward step by step, but as a witness to what you have already become. He does not need to push you further. He does not need to explain more, because what needed to be revealed has already been placed within you. And now, it is yours to carry. And as you carry it, you will begin to move through life with a different kind of awareness. You will recognize signs more quickly. You will trust your discernment more deeply. You will respond with clarity rather than hesitation. And the path ahead will continue to open, not because it was hidden before, but because you are now able to see it. This is why this message matters, because it marks the end of unconscious repetition and the beginning of conscious alignment. Because it shows you that what once felt ordinary was always meaningful. Because it reminds you that you were never stuck. You were simply being prepared. And now, you are ready. Ready to see clearly. Ready to move differently. Ready to live in alignment with the awareness you have gained. This is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning of a new way of walking it. Type "I walk in clarity" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated. As you step fully into this clarity, understand this sacred truth. Every revelation you receive is a light meant to shine beyond you. There are souls still trapped in repetition, still waiting for the very awakening you have just experienced. When you release your support through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a channel. You are sowing seeds into a divine harvest of transformed lives. The living word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days," and this is your moment to act on that promise with faith and authority. I feel this strongly. This is not a casual invitation. This is a prophetic opportunity placed directly in your path. As you give, heaven responds. As you sow, clarity, favor, and multiplication are released back into your life. Go now, follow the link or scan the QR code, and step into this act of obedience without delay.